Virgo can be considered the mystique of the 12 in terms of spiritual symbology and the representation of higher ideals. In personality-wise, Virgo seems to be without the flair of the Leo, Aries, or fire triplicity, yet it is masked in its spiritual status. First of all, this word is the major key of entrance into its representation. Virgo equals, in its Latin derivative, and this certainly is responsible for a great deal of emotional anxiety for Virgo women who were as hot as Leo or Aries or Sagittarian women, because they were under the impression, because they were born and were not any understanding of the concept purity, and that the other concept that somehow sexuality or sex passion made one somehow impure. And that's our theological inheritance for being in the Western Hemisphere and being under the doctrine of any moralizing religion. Religion has always opposed sexuality. Somehow, under the guise of marriage, it somehow transformed sexuality to a virtue rather than a vice. That's a peculiar psychology, but nonetheless, we all bought it and still are buying it, except it isn't working in the West. Anyway, this word represents purification. And the purification has all or much to do in its first inception of this idea, which represents water. Now, I'm stating this in advance so that as I work towards the idea of the symbolic representation of Virgo, it'll make sense. But where I'm supposed to start, and she brought her Bible, that's wonderful. We're going immediately to Genesis 49:23, I think, is the correct verse, of the 12 signs of the zodiac in relationship to the metaphysical 12 neuron or ganglionic centers of the body. Not neuron, but ganglionic centers of the body, which metaphysical truth is essentially based on. What we're doing is showing the comparable relationship of the 12 signs and these 12 centers in the body to show the whole man, the whole woman, the whole Moor. And in order to do that, we need to look at and interpret the symbolisms of, along with the names of, the two missing aspects in terms of key. One school did the names, the other school did the signs. The whole of it is that they are non-separable. Okay? That philosophy, science, and art is what astrology is. What metaphysics is a part of what astrology is. Why I make the distinction of not calling this science of self-knowledge astronomy, because astronomy points to the external, the heavenly realms, only in relationship to position, texture of planets, the behavior of planets in relationship to planets, and space and time has virtually nothing divorced itself from the knowledge of self, okay? But blueprint-wise, the symbolism is essentially the same. Astrology gives birth to astronomy, not vice versa, as the Western astronomer would have us believe. Okay, I wanted to clear that point up. Because this science does not have Eurocentric, Western Eurocentric credibility in the academic courts. They are not pro-astrological information. They are pro-astronomy. Okay. Verse 23, I think, is the wee bit of suggestion here, and it's so tiny it baffles the biblical reader's imagination to consider it to be even significant. You want to read that verse for us?
Verse
No, excuse me. Yeah, 23, yes.
in chapter 49.
Uh-huh.
The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him.
No. Verse... Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. You were right, because I gave you 49. I should be giving you Deuteronomy, verse chapter 33, because the tidbit of Genesis 49 is so small it would do virtually no good to mention it first. 33, verse 23. Deuteronomy 33. Mm-hmm.
And
Naphtali.
And of Naphtali, he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south.
Very good. Now that's all. That's all. Yeah, I'm talking tidbit here. Now, if you want, turn quickly to Genesis 49. Let me see if I wrote the verse down.
21.
21? Okay, read that tidbit.
Nephtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words.
Right, that's it. Okay, in terms of depiction of the sign. So the next studious key is to look diligently and favorably at the name Naphtali. So go to page 470 in your metaphysical dictionary. Now notice, right under the name, there is another name given. Nephthalim. Okay? First thing, we're just going to make note of that. So read Naphtali.
Naphtali. Let's see. It's Hebrew. My wrestling, mutual intertwining of Jah, wrestling of Jehovah. A. Sixth son of Jacob, second son of Bela, Rachel's handmaid, and Bela's Rachel's handmaid conceived again and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with mighty wrestling of God enlarging, have I wrestled with my sister, and have prevailed, as she called his name Nephtali. Jacob's blessing upon this son was, Nephtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. Genesis 49:21. Moses' blessing upon the tribe of Nephtali was, O Nephtali, satisfied with favor, and full with the blessing of Jehovah, possess thou the west and the south. B. Nephtali also refers to the tribe of people who were descended from the son of Jacob by this name. And C, to the country in which they lived. And that's in Numerology 1, verse 43.
Not Numerology 1.
What is it? No, what is it?
Well, look at it. It's right there. Oh.
Numbers.
Right.
Okay, the metaphysical meaning. The brain in the small of the back, the kidneys, whose office is to direct the elimination of certain watery elements from the blood. This presiding genius is called strength because it keeps up the positive tone of the circulating medium. When we have been worshiping material things and filling our thoughts with worldly conditions to the exclusion of the spiritual, there is a deterioration of the soul quality. a gloom and a dimness of the mind prevail. One of the parts of their organism that is especially afflicts is Naphtali, kidneys. See Isaiah 9, verse 1. When material thought has dimmed the eyes of the understanding, and shadows of carnal thought have gathered in consciousness, affecting the strength centered in the back, the restorative power is the light of spirit. The mind is open to the light through prayer and spiritual meditation. The light increases from day to day. The soul grows into consciousness with the Christ mind, and one's whole being is thus purified and greatly increased in strength.
Okay. Now, you went right to the key, but unless there's some correlation made, it won't make any significance. The other point I'd like to make is that in the book, The Healing Secrets of the Ages by Catherine Ponder, she does not refer to the kidneys. She refers to the adrenal glands, which is more in keeping with both the name Naphtali, which states here in the metaphysical paragraph, the brain in the small of the back, the kidneys, whose office is to direct the elimination of certain watery elements from the blood. This presiding genius is called strength. That is not what the kidneys do. They do not give strength, but they do eliminate poisons from the blood in a liquid form. Okay? She corrected him in her book by pointing to the adrenal glands. Okay? The first correction that needs to be made. The key word for Naphtali is strength. First key word. Okay? Now the other key factor is in what is said by Moses concerning Naphtali in Deuteronomy. O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of Jehovah, possess thou the west and the south. One reading. The other reading is, and full of the blessings of the Lord, take possession of the sea and the south. Okay? So they're both relevant because they both make reference to two aspects that points directly to Virgo as Naphtali. Okay? But first I want to read the descriptives of Virgo. Anatomical correspondence of Virgo, meaning what part of the physiology or anatomy does Virgo govern. Virgo's domain is the bowels or abdomen. It is chiefly associated with the duodenum, the peritoneum, the rectal and abdominal arteries, those serving the digestive system, particularly the intestine and the intestinal veins. I got another commentary here on Virgo. Virgo is referred to in man, the grand symbol of the zodiac, as the assimilation man in terms of the distribution of not just food but energy. Virgo also governs the solar plexus. The solar plexus usually is referred to as this area here. Okay, and it occurred to me to draw this two ways. That in the grand man, the solar plexus would be viewed as centered in the abdominal region. But it also is in reference to this region of the body as well. In other words, not just circular here, but circular here. Okay, which includes the back and the south. Okay, what we mean. Where is the west?
The west is the outside.
Well, give me another word for outside. There's no outside concept in this science.
External body.
In four directions of directives, what is the back?
Back is the west. No,
Thank you. Is the west. Yes. All right. What direction is the south?
The sacral vertebra.
Very good. Okay, so we have then this, in this cross here, this would be what? The west. And this would be what? The south, which would locate what sign? This is Cancer, so start from Cancer and count over. Cancer, Leo. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Directively, in terms of direction, the very concept of both south, west, and south. The other is the key in terms of this word that is given. The sea and the south. What is the sea? What is in the sea, folks?
Fish.
Before the fish got there, what was there?
Water.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Very, very big key in terms, again, of here and what Virgo represents as the divine mother. Okay? Cancer represents the mother. Virgo represents the divine creative mother, because what comes out of water? What's born in water? Fish. You just mentioned it. This should be I-T-H. Ixus, which means fish. Yes, this is where Jesus' name comes from the Greek to the Latin, which is Jesutus, is the theological concept of Jesus. Okay, it's a coined term found in the Catholic dictionary, the Book of Jesutus, or the Book of Jesus, as they translate it, in the Old Testament. Okay, so the name pre-exists the idea of New Testament, but again, it's a symbolic representation, remembering that in the astronomical view of the cycles of evolution, the era that is attributed to Jesus is the era of the fish, which is the era of belief, the era of faith. Okay, the cycle of the fish. Why the symbol of the fish is placed on the cross and at the bottom of the feet of allegedly Jesus on the cross. Okay, it's the cycle of Pisces. Okay, which is opposite who? Could it be Virgo? It most certainly could be. Okay, all right. So we're seeing the correlation in terms of why particularly Naphtali, who is of the tribe of Naphtali that we talked about last Friday. Anybody remember? 1 Kings chapter 7, verse whatchamacallit, and verse whatchamacallit? That's right. Hiram Abith is of the tribe of Naphtali, who was the son of right. Not Virgo, but the sign of, who is the divine mother. Okay? Okay? Who is a virgin, who gives birth without a father. Okay?
Who was a widow.
Who is the widow. Okay? All right. That's how they tie the story in. And this actually is a symbol of Aquarius, which is the water bearer. But Aquarius is not a water sign, it's an air sign. It doesn't really bear water, it bears the substance of knowledge. The primal essence of knowledge is a watery-like substance. It isn't water. But again, we're talking symbolism throughout. What it needs to be understood about biblical inference is that all of it is symbolism, not some of it. That some of it is history and some of it, all of it, from Genesis chapter 1 to Revelation 22. The whole book is a symbological story of 3 different dimensions from the science of the Moors. That's the reason I point out, this is, the science of the Moors is not an organization. It is not a religion. It is not a doctrine. It is a set of keys of how to relate discover, unveil hidden truths. That's what astrology gets to be. And our ancestors found out the secrets of the universe. That finding out became the science of the Moors. How to read nature is what the keys of Moorish science represent. What others did with them was secondary to the fact that this body of knowledge that tells us who and what and where we are is what Moorish science is. Anybody else that has used it borrowed it from our ancestry. That's the validation of the science. Okay? In terms of reusing symbolisms, the mitra of the Pope is the crown of Osiris, which represents the fish era. Okay, that's a fish on Osiris's head. Okay, that the tall ones, the so-called Watusi, the Tutsi, wore in a hairstyle because they are direct descendants of that particular house. So they wore this haircut of Osirian crown. That's what Dr. Yakanan pointed out in his book with some photographs of some contemporary Watusi in relationship to showing the crown of Osiris. Okay? Okay. So let's get back to this virgin who has nothing to do with sex in the sense that we view it. It has to do with the creative factor. And the key, interestingly enough, is found in the name Naphtali, but not in the form that is given in the Bible, but here, two other names. On the next page, you will find the word Naphtuhim. Yes, on the bottom of the page of 471, you'll find the word Naphtuhim. But we don't want to overlook the word Naphthalim, which is right up under Naphtali. Now, if you go to Revelations chapter 7, verse 6, you will find not the tribe of Naphtali, but lo and behold, you will find the tribe of Naphthalim. Revelation 7:6. A strange occurrence, inclusively, Charles Fillmore does not give the definition of Nephthalim, though he acknowledges it as he puts it here in his dictionary, but he does not define it. He uses the same definitive of Naphtali for wrestling, my wrestling, as he does with Nephthalim. I just want you to see that verse in Revelations 7:6. And this brilliant fundamentalist here saw fit to change it. But you'll find it written N-E-P-H in yours, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Here, he thought it was an error on someone's part, so he changed it to let me see here. I'm not in the right chapter. Get in the right chapter first. Yeah, but I'm not looking at chapter 7. It's 6. I don't see a big old 7 here. Is one of my pages missing? It might be. I've wrestled with this particular edition. Oh, here it is. Okay. From the tribe of Asher, and Naphtali he has in here. Now this is the translation of Schofield, okay? Okay? He's supposed to be updating the vocabulary, terms, and words without an understanding. Okay, now, and I didn't bring it with me, in the Dictionary of All Myths and Scriptures, you will find the word Nephthalim. Okay? Now here is what he says about the word Naph. They don't have any copies. Naphtuhim. from Egyptian. It's in the page 471 in your dictionary, right at the bottom of the page. Naphthuhm. They of Ptah. But here's what he says about it. Now listen to this carefully. The opened. Then he begins degrading. The hollow, the cavernous, the empty ones, the loosened, the boarded people, the bowmen. Now, the key here is to understand prefix and suffix, which is the etymological key of understanding how a word is built, how and what a name is built on. That is what you go back to when you're into etymology. You go back to the root derivative of the word as far back in language as you can, okay? If you look at this term here, look at these two words. Oh, it should be. N-A-P-H. Let me write it again because I want this clear. Part of the problem for us, of Fillmore and the whole school of metaphysics, is that he was in agreement with the European theologian, the European interpreter of scriptures, dividing the Bible into Egypt, fallen and demonic. Illumined on the Hebrew and the Jew, blessed and chosen. That's how they divided up the story form. Okay? Now when I say they, I'm not talking about the Jews. I'm not talking about the Septuagint, the 71 Greek writing, speaking, thinking Hebrews. I'm talking about the Kabbalistic writers, those who structured this format to present as a holy book. Okay, inside the manuscript with the Moorish keys, they form this story based on Moorish science, now referred to as Masonic science, lore, knowledge. That's why I keep taking you back to 1 Kings 7. The base of Masonic lore is right there in that chapter, you see. And from that you work back towards Genesis and forward towards Revelation, and you keep finding these same references and inferences in terms of understanding the meaning of words and names. That's Naphtali. That's Ptah. This is the opener of the mouth. Opener of the mouth. The Creator God. That's who Ptah is. Okay? Now, let's look at this word again, then we're going to go to another word. One who loosens the bind is also a depictive of Ptah, okay, which is also found in Gaskell's cosmological dictionary. It's not a metaphysical dictionary because he includes every other scripture, including the Book of the Dead. So it can't be a Eurocentric metaphysical approach. Now we're going to turn to Nephthoa, a word not a part of this story, except what you will note in terms of its pronunciation, Nephtoah. Now it is Hebrew, page 478, opening, loosening, unbinding, springing, entrance, insight, instruction, explanation. The fountain of the waters of Nephtali was a place on the border between Judea and Benjamin. Now turn back here to page 471, and you read again the opened, the hollow. Okay, you see the degradation that is given when he translates it to Ptah. Okay. Problem for European metaphysics in terms of not just enhancing the dignity and the prestige of the ancestral line of the African Moor, but in simply giving the credibility of the real meaning of the story and from whence it comes. Okay, this is a contrived story form about the evolution of the soul, is what this book is about. Self-knowledge. Okay, it is not about Jesus. It's not about a heavenly Father versus, though there is a Jehovah, there is an Allah, there is every divine name you can think of, there's a God that fits it. Okay, but truth does not deal with individuals. It deals with the whole, because it is whole. If it creates, it does not separate itself, it extends itself. Okay, which is a difference. We're not independent of God. We are an expression of. We are what God is. Okay? We are same one and same thing, extended, not separate. It is only our psychology that gives us the impression that we are separate from the universe and the cause of the universe. But religion acknowledges the based on culture. In this language it's called this, in that language it's called that. And for those reasons, which became political, folks were allowed, convinced, and sworn to go to war in the name of their God. It's an amazing piece of trickery. They think the con man, the flim-flam man, is out in the street. He's in the church. He's always been there. See, to get a whole people to buy into a mythic is really the sweetest con job you can hoax, because you got something to work with. Two things. You got ignorance and you got fear. And the promise of everlasting life, if you would just believe. Interesting approach. But it worked because it's part of the slow process of evolving and the development of consciousness in the collective, which fits into the law of evolution, the law of revolving, the law of devolving. The whole process allows room for this spoon feeding of the masses. And as long as their theory is, as long as human beings have something to look up to, they have a reason to behave morally. That is not where we are. That's why it's not working. The energy is bursting out at the seams, and the patterns of whatever kind of psychology that's been set in the collective psyche is performing. The suppressed urges are coming out, and we are seeing the beast at work, but it's not coming from somewhere else. It's coming from people. That's the suppressed patterns of thought that most human beings have no control over, virtually have no control over. So it's easy to make a monster out of a man. I want to finish reading this concept here of NEPH. The metaphysical meaning of Nephtali, which will give you the metaphysical meaning of Ptah and Naphtali, freeing the consciousness from one's obstructing thoughts and beliefs through prayer, praise, and faith. It should be meditation should be there, so that the understanding may be renewed and the waters of life may spring up and flow in freely, opening, loosening, unbinding, spring, entrance, insight, instruction. Should be all of what both Nephtali and Naphtali mean. They are all of the same root derivative word. Okay. What we're talking about is this center here, the solar plexus, the sun's center, that includes several organs in the body. One of those organs is the duodenum, the other the intestinal tract, the other is the kidneys, the other is and are the adrenal glands, which gives us physical strength. But that is not the greatest strength. The greatest strength is spiritual strength. The second to that is mental strength. They don't pump fluid, liquid fluid of action into the body when you're using spiritual strength. You're connecting with another nerve center in the solar plexus. This is the center of wisdom, okay, where the stomach is as well. See? And on the bottom of the stomach, which belongs to another sign, of course, Cancer, is the nerve center for wisdom. But this is all a unit. It's not one organ operates independent of. It operates interdependent, intertwining, interconnected. Okay? All right? I'm reading the definition here in terms of what he says Naphtali means. Now you look at the intestinal tract, you see what? Intertwining, interconnecting. Okay, that's the intestinal duodenum tract. Okay, this is Naphtali. This is the area that Virgo governs. All right, okay. This entire area, which is towards the west and the south, the anal tract. Okay, that's Naphtali. Okay, all right. That's also Virgo, who is meticulous about what he or she puts in their body. I don't know if you've ever invited a Virgo to dinner, but it better look clean and it better smell clean, or they are not going to be able to eat it. Virtually the slightest hint of any corrosion turns their appetite completely off, you know, unless they really have afflictions in their chart. I mean, some Virgos hell could eat out of the garbage can. But in terms of the balance of that individual's chemistry and physiology, you have never met a more pickier personality than Virgo. You know, and if you've ever watched them, if you go to, I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant with a Virgo. If you've ever been to a restaurant with anybody that does this, he or she was Virgo. It doesn't matter who it was. I don't need to know, ask them what their birth sign was. That's Virgo stuff. It's got to smell right and it's got to look right, or they can't digest it. And if you sit there and say something about snot while they're eating, they will puke in their plate. That's how sensitive this center is in terms of ingestion. Receptivity, it's not just food, it is energy. It goes to the stomach, which does what? Distributes the nutrients. Okay. This is what mother does. Nurtures the baby, the body. Okay? That's all Virgo stuff. Okay. So that we see this divine symbolic representation of the one who gives birth to the divine child, the pure child, the purified, clean, proper, corrected. Okay? This is the one who gives goodly words. They are analytical. They are correct in their assessment of things. They view everything in its proper perspective. They weigh it and then they speak it. You see? That's Virgo. You see? Then when it's afflicted, or if Mercury is in Virgo in its detriment, in its fault, in its weak aspect, then they're extraordinarily critical. In fact, they can't stop criticizing until they get a control of this faculty that keeps the mind, the monkey mind, working. You know, they just find they find all the faults. And they're supposed to be able to do that, but they're supposed to be able to find it and correct it and give an analysis of the conclusion that's correct of how to change it, how to fix it, how to... Okay. That's Virgo. That's the goodly word that they give. Okay. They are full of the grace of God, of the favor of God. Great word favor always means grace. That level of depiction and location is where the spiritual substance comes to, in the solar plexus, when you are full of grace. It's in here that this grace is a substance. It is a power. Okay, it is not a flighty virtue of kind words. When you're full of grace, you're full of power. Okay. When you're full of truth, you're full of power. Okay. That's the Virgoian area of functionability for the grand womb man and her son. I have some biblical references there, I see, which is no different than what we've already talked about. Oh, okay, why I put the 12 stones there is probably in relationship to Genesis chapter 28, 14 to 17. I think you'll find those 12 precious stones mentioned in the Old Testament, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to figure out why that looks terribly skimpy. I didn't do much work on Virgo. Anyway, the astrological motto of Virgo is I analyze. Okay? That's its strength. Again, now, I'm not talking about the individual person or sign. I'm talking about the faculty, ability in the grand womb man first and man or her son. Okay? That we all have the analytical ability. Okay? Remember, this is the sign, the second level octave of Mercury governs Virgo as it governs Gemini. And that is third house, which is the house of communications, education, the house of literacy, literature, reading, study. All is in third house. All is the vibration of the planet Mercury. Okay? The great messenger is the energy of Mercury. Okay, all right. Virgo represents the physical octave of that sign. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about in terms of the Virgoian? And the adrenaline factor is a very key factor that unfortunately women are not capable of having a subconscious reflex that turns their adrenaline on in the face of sudden fear, danger, and surprise of a tragic kind. Because you all are conditioned to withdraw from horrendous fear. That's why your knees buckle, or used to anyway, and you would faint. When someone says, come here, B-I-T-H, I'm going to cut your throat, these bubble over for the male. They should bubble over for the female if she is properly conditioned to defend herself under fire of danger. But she's conditioned to do what? Scream, holler for help. Now you can sit and deny if you want to. Hell, every time we pick up the paper and turn the TV on, some woman been beat up, stomped, killed by some fool. Except every now and then, some woman ain't buying it. Dude breaking in this woman's car in Detroit, I mentioned it last Sunday. And she reached in the back of the seat and got her jackhammer out there and went to whooping his ass like she was Jack Johnson. You know? Okay? Her adrenaline kicked in instead of fear. And she went and did something about defending what was rightfully hers. That's when your nature is balanced here and here. Okay? And part of the problem, as I'm mentioning, women are weaned on fear. And that's an unfortunate set of circumstances, because it leaves them not the victim of the assailant, they become the victim of themselves. Fear weakens. It contracts the muscles. It locks the neurospinal nerve system. And one becomes paralytically incapable of defending themselves. White women especially used to faint. That was a great defense to fear and tragedy. Oh, I feel faint. Yeah. And they were trained. That was a training, because she felt faint. She probably, when she was doing this, I wish I could kick his ass. It's probably what she was really thinking, But she didn't think she had the strength to do that. Okay. The other level of this same system, which does not come from the adrenal area, but comes from this system, the wisdom center or system, is that in the face of danger, the strength then of wisdom is to take the person out of danger. Before it happens, the wise woman is not there when it happens. Okay. The greatest defense is to be not where trouble is. That's wisdom. Catherine Ponder gives the definitive of strength as endurance. Yes and no. I mean, you can stand there and endure somebody beating your head in. Shit, that ain't strength. But she's referring to another kind and level of endurance. The ability to complete something. Mental, physical, in terms of writing something, in terms of working through something, in terms of sitting in meditation, in terms of praying for an hour or chanting for 3. That's endurance. Okay. The ability to complete, to be determined to finish, to be determined to accomplish, is also a mental strength. Okay. And to hold one's fixed point of concentration takes mental strength, for more than a few minutes, which most people, really can't handle, I mean, you can watch it. I did this in a little class in Ohio. I had a group of Muslim kids there, and the first thing, the sisters that were supposed to be teaching couldn't get them to pay attention. So the first thing they said, I want everybody to put your pencil down and just sit for a minute. I want you to do something. I want you to sit still for 5 minutes. And don't say anything, don't laugh or giggle, and don't move. Just sit for 5 minutes. It didn't last 60 seconds or there were about 9 or 10 kids. One kid decided he was going to do it. The rest of them went. They couldn't do it. And I told them, you can't do it. I want you to see that you do not have enough self-control to sit without speaking, laughing, giggling, or moving for 5 minutes. I want you to see, I know you can't do it. I want you to see that you can't do it. Yeah. So they, it's 3 or 4 girls and the rest were boys, sit there. I mean, they literally did not have any idea of how to do it. They had no, except this one kid sat there and he turned his attention and stared straight ahead. I didn't take it to 5 minutes. Hell, the rest of them couldn't even bear it. I mean, it was virtually a burden just to, So that we understand one thing about strength and determination is virtually what you're talking about is to maintain, let me do this so that it looks like something intelligent. This would be strength, determination of a mental kind. to start here on this wave and to finish on this end of that same wave. That's determination and strength and endurance of a mental or spiritual nature. Most people can't do that. You know? They can't even ride the dip when the honey and the sugar, they got up here. You know? Soon as something go wrong with the damn car and they got a pocket full of money can get it fixed. Oh man, damn, my car broke down. You know? They go to complaining about it. And they arrive at the wave, you know, that got them here to get the money, the bucks, whatever they need to take them down here. Because it's going down. Everything rises. Everything falls. That ain't once a year. That's every damn day. And we're on a wave as we move through life. We have to learn to ride the wave. See? The way you get off that wave is you ride the wave of grace, which is higher. But it's a wave. Grace doesn't carry you straight on up. It's still a wave, but it's a higher wave with less jagged, jumpy, inharmonious vibration. Less jagged, jumpy, inharmonious movement. Less obstacles. Okay? Less blind spots. Because you're being carried by grace when you're being guided, you know, around stuff that you don't even know would have happened to you had you not been being guided by grace. That's inner or spiritual strength. See? Then to understand the dynamics of spiritual strength allows you to move the opposition, the obstacle, the confrontation, the enemy out of your way is the other part of spiritual strength. Whatever it is, be gone, and it's gone. You see? Yeah. Disease, assailant, it doesn't matter. The power of strength is the power to command your world to behave according to your rhythmic pattern of harmony, of balance, which includes all of the fruits of the spirit and the attributes and virtues of harmony and balance. The one thing I promote is understanding and appreciating the law of rhythm. It doesn't matter how much we know, how much we have, how much we are able to do. If you're out of rhythm, you're going to be in conflict with the law of rhythm. If you're in harmony with the law of rhythm, you're going to be moved by the law of rhythm, which always knows what it's doing, okay? The problem, the thing is not a problem, is that the law of rhythm is on 1, 2, 3, 9 levels. Okay, that's what makes for the conflict. See? How is it reflected through us? Our thinking and our desires, our emotions, our feelings are in conflict. We want this, we want that, we need this, and we need that. We want to be here, we want to, you know. Shit, how is anything going to guide and direct that kind of, you know, impulse, compulse? You know? But that's what's going on in a commercial society where everybody who has a business is saying, come buy this, you should wear that, you should own these, you should rent these. You know, that's what's going on with us in this culture every day. As soon as we step, before we get outside, because as soon as we turn that damn TV on, somebody's telling you to buy something. He's not asking you. They're not suggesting. They're telling you to buy this shit. You know? And if you're not dealing with your point of view, you got to yield to it, you know. A dude said, I was driving along one day, minding my own business, and suddenly I heard this tune, have a McDonald's today. And turned right into McDonald's, you know. And knew damn well he didn't want no McDonald's, you know. That makes for inharmony as an example, okay, and what we're trying to correct in terms of aligning, balancing our thinking so that somebody else's thinking doesn't get in there. Somebody else's fear, anxiety, answer to your problem, solution for your good gets in there, and it's not yours. You know, that's the point of the emphasis of harmony, rhythm, when your rhythm is balanced. You get to the sale where the thing you wanted, you get right to it and buy it twice as cheap when you're in harmony, you know. That's remarkable. And everybody says, oh, Lord, I'm so blessed. You know. Well, they are. They're riding the wave of rhythm and harmony. You know, till they interfere with it, and then things go haywire. I wonder what they'd be saying then. Oh, Lord, don't love me no more. Some silly answer of that sort.
People have a stroke of fortune when they talk about how blessed they are.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't ever have anything to say
Yeah.
when they encounter a challenge.
When they get challenged, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, the metaphysical school is learning how to deal with the challenge in terms of being blessed. People overuse it because it sounds better than being and having bad luck. So I don't blame them for saying it. Right. Yeah. But their reference is always to what we consider the good part, you know. But the growth happens during and after and getting through the challenge. We are supposed to. The soul is not learning anything. The soul is knowledge. It's going through experiences. The brain may need to learn something as the brain, mind, personality. But even then, most of the time, hell, we already knew it was wrong. So we aren't really learning anything. We are having our experiences. And we're saying, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want that to happen anymore. Or we're saying, it hurt, yeah, but hey, I enjoyed that. So they go do it again. Because the convenience of the mind allows you to have an experience, and if you got pleasure and pain from it, and the pleasure is greater than the pain, then you forget that you did that. And you go do it again. 6 months, 3 months, 4 days, about 5 damn minutes later. You know, I mean, that's the peculiarity of free will, peculiarity of appetite, of this fluid flowing, these adrenal glands out of control, you know. People walking around going, that's their glands ruling their lives. Those are the slaves. Those are the ones that are in bondage to their glandular nature, to the lower kingdoms, is the meaning of those parables and stories of one king over, like the 5 kings over, that rule over one particular land. I can't remember the story in the book of Joshua. It is the 5 senses gone amok is what it's talking about. Not 5 people. Okay. Well, that's pretty much it for Virgo, and I could talk a little bit more about Virgo, but I don't want to label the idea.
So then,
Go ahead. I'm just looking for another idea. Go on, listening. Go on.
so it sounds to me to be a gross error then for people to try to locate themselves and their root in the scriptures.
Only if they are able to interpret, because the interpretation of more is in the scriptures.
But I mean, when people say for instance, try to deal with a group of people and to cause their historical root to be that.
Right, they're missing the point. Yes, they're missing the point. The word Hebrew and Jew are not Eastern words. Hebrew is a Greek word. Jew is a Latin word. They are both code words. Okay. The idea of the Christian wanting to be Jew or Jewish is because of this underlying concept, chosen ones. The chosen ones are the 12 glands of the body as opposed to 30 some odd glands in the body. We don't just have 12 glands, but the ones that fit this blueprint of the upright perfecting man and woman are these 12 major glands. Okay? That's what's chosen. Okay? And the 12 signs that represent these 12 body parts. We have more than 12 body, you know? And in terms of the constellation, Our universe has 14 constellations as mapped out by our ancestry, but they shaped in the circle that fits evenly divided 12. Those are the chosen 12. Okay. So the need is to define oneself and then to describe oneself. That's the need. The idea of more is universal in its physiological functionability. The nature of human being is the definitive of more. That's given in Revelation chapter 5, verse 11, concerning the 2 olive branches. Given as Lord of the earth. That's the word more. See? Every human being is given the challenge. He must master his earth. If he's not, if he doesn't, somebody else will. If he doesn't, he will die. You see, as a victim of his own glands or at the hands of someone else. It is the good fortune is that our ancestry was given this ethnocentric name of human biology and anatomy in this ancient and antiquacious period of time that in the mythology seems to go back as far as Lemuria, where we don't have any literature on Lemuria, so I can't tie it in. They're the brazen and the bold ones. Well, it came from Lemuria. Well, can you prove that, Brother Bay? Well, Johnson Bay, being air as hell, he didn't want to prove it. Didn't happen. That's didacticism. I try not to do that. There are times when I would like to be didactic, but I catch myself. I want to comment on these books for both you all as well as the tape viewing public that can't seem to get down here on Fridays. These are some more of J.A. Rogers' books. Sex and Race, Volumes 1 through 3, which are excellent, concerning bits and pieces of Moorish history and the evidence of the reality, the fact of more. Africa's Gift to America, which is an excellent. These are our classics. Okay, when I say our, I mean that a Moor compiled this information. The Book of the Dead is also our classic, but a European compiled it, but it's still of Afro-Moorish concern. I had to put that Afro in there because so many brothers are still convinced they're Africans. Even most of them don't know what the hell it means. Here's a painting of, and not the best depiction of, there's another